All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast. Again, we're live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/ThePlatypusKing. Hey, I had a good time last week. I'm here. I'm the Platypus King, of course, with my co-host, the Mantid Man. How are you doing today, Mantid Man?
I'm great, except I have one qualm, and that is your inflection. You're usually really good. It is Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast.
My apologies. It's been a long weekend.
That's right. Well, it is good to be back. Last week was a blast. A lot of stuff has happened since the last podcast, so I'm really looking forward to jumping into it and being able to talk about it.
Me as well. So let's just jump right into the ETS, shall we?
Let's do it. I'll pull up my, I think I got it tabbed right here. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the top 8. Your boy, the Platypus King, is in that, but I think we're going to save his deck for the end of the discussion. We're going to go through the decks in the top 8 and kind of what he experienced, some of the things that I saw from the outside looking in as well, and what we expect that to do to the ladder climb this week for all of you guys.
Exactly, and I've definitely already seen a change on the ladder, up to a certain degree. But yeah, so in the top 8, here's what we have. We're from first to last, a couple of those in no particular order. We got AP Midrange taking home the trophy by user named Aroma Nova. And then we had TJP Midrange by Moosh. Is that how you say his name? Moosh? Musha? Muche?
Yeah, I think it's Moosh.
Okay. And then we have Magikarp playing Skycrag. Alarmadillo playing Xenon Killers. Quertsy playing Icaria Gold. Ben Buford playing Felm Control. The Platypus King playing Felm Control, a little mid-rangier version of than the other player, and Jez2718 playing a JPS mid-range Nostrix deck. Did you get a chance to watch much of the ETS or very much streaming this weekend, the day of the ETS?
So I got to watch some early on. I unfortunately had to take care of some family stuff up the coast, but I did try and catch up, watch the first few rounds. Watched you bring home some solid wins, and I watched the streak get ended, actually. What I'm mentioning, by the way, is Magikarp went undefeated last week and won the ETS, and then Platypus was his first loss in 2 weeks, so that was fantastic. And I bounced around a little bit and watched some of their stuff, but I did not get to see the end. I was relying on people's Twitter streams and watching chat in like Discord and things like that to kind of find out what happened.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw you chatting around in the Discords for sure. The reigning defending. Yeah, I definitely gave Magikarp his first loss after 11 wins there, whatever it was. Yeah, that was a fun time. My deck was, well, we'll talk about my deck later, but I was pretty much. His deck is one of the decks that I kind of tuned my deck for, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're seeing in these decks and what effect they're having. And I know you said you've seen some effect already. I definitely have. Just even last night, 4 or 5 hours after the tournament ended, there was a plethora of the Alarmadillo Zenon deck. It's a very Zenon Killers-esque deck from before Dusk Road came out.
Yes.
It's just been updated. It is great. Don't get me wrong. Alarmadillo is a fantastic deck builder. I did not expect to see as many show up. I thought for sure it'd be a bunch of AP mid-range that were just all over the, scattered all over the place. Granted, I started in high gold last night and finished up mid-diamond. And I mean, it was just rife with Zenon Killers and a bunch of like Icaria Blue, which didn't even make the cut.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Xenon Killers is the thing that I'm seeing pop up the most. I think a lot of that is, a little bit of it is the fact that it top aided and people are familiar with the user Alarmadillo, So they're keeping an eye on that deck list. I think another big part of the boost to Xenon Killers on the ladder is this guy named Lights Out Ace. Maybe you've heard of him. He was tweeting about the deck and talking about how great it was, and saying that he tweeted about it, saying, just grinded through Diamond 1 just now with Alarmadillo's grindy Xenon Killers list. It absolutely shreds all of the Feln and Ikaria Blue, and you have plenty of play against Argentport and Praxis. I saw that tweet at some point last night. Maybe it was early this morning. Either way. And when I got online finally to play the game today, I checked to see where my rank was and see where all my friends were on the ranked leaderboard. And at that time, Lights Out Ace, rank 2. So he's been doing pretty good with the Xenon Killers list. And, him tweeting about it and talking about it, and him probably streaming it himself, probably helped boost its level of popularity today, in the last 24 hours.
I don't know who Lights Out Ace is, but I'm going to take you where... I'm just kidding. Great guy. I know you don't like normally people promoting other streams. I would say that for new players, he is another solid stream to watch if ThePlatypusKing is not online. Does a great job of walking through why certain cards should be played, much like ThePlatypusKing does. So if you ever have to have a fallback, decent stream to watch, great information, and he's top 2 right now, so nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, when I played him on the ladder a little bit ago, just before we started this, and I think at that time he was rank 1 and he beat me. So, but yeah, Xenon Killers is definitely the main thing I've been seeing on the ladder. I tried out pretty much all the lists from the top 8 today. The main one I played against, I was trying out the Time Justice Primal mid-range list with Stand Together, and while I was playing that deck, I did like about 10 games with it. I played the mirror like 2 or 3 times, I believe. And so that's another one that I've been seeing picking up popularity since the tournament results. Pretty much that one and Xenon would be the main 2 lists from the ETS that I've been seeing on the ladder.
So you're higher ranked than I am. You're already in Masters. I think you're still top 10, correct?
15 when I signed off, I think.
All right, so 15, still fantastic placement. If you knew tomorrow that 50% of the field was going to be Xenon Killers, 25% was going to be Ikaria Blue or Gold, and the other 25% was going to be just a smattering, what would you take into your grind if you were trying to climb to Masters to beat that?
Well, I feel like I would want... See, with the Killers deck, it's a lot of the units are very efficient at very resistant against removal, and so a lot of them require when they play, they're a lot of big units, right? Just a lot of big units, a lot of power and toughness to them, and in some cases, they have Carnosaurs and Xenon Initiation to turn their unit into a Carnosaur, so to speak. So they all require removal, so it puts a lot of pressure on your removal. So I think you either want to try to go underneath them and play something like Praxis Tokens or Skycrag, whatever. Play your own go wide, kill you quickly strategy. Or you'd want to try to play a Harsh Rule removal pile deck. It's going to put a lot of pressure on your removal, though, so it's going to be a little bit challenging. I would probably just stick with Feln because a little bit of a bias, just a personal bias. And I would probably I'd probably put Steward of the Past in my list, or maybe start splashing Fire for Statuary Maiden. Now, those aren't great answers, and Xenon Killers is not the most recursive Void-based deck, but they get a lot of value out of playing 4 copies of Dark Return to return all these units that they have with, with Killer. I think that's the way that I would try to combat it. Personally, maybe it's not the best way, but that's the way that I would try to do it.
2 words, baby. Charge Rod. Give it to me. You can't kill what's already kicking your ass. That's all I got to say. No, I want it to be viable. I agree with what you're saying. I don't necessarily think Charge Rod is a bad idea. I think I think like the Huru Flyers and stuff may be decent. It's very resilient as well to removal. They're big butts, things like that. So it's got some legs. I think you're very much correct that going wide with like Grenadins may be solid, or token generation of some kind in general. Just give them too many things to kill. Um, I don't disagree that like Kamado's removal pile, that what would they call it? Akaria Black is what some people were calling it. But that removal pile stacks up really well against killers. It's essentially the reason that killers didn't make the cut right before Dusk Road. It was that card suite, and it just got better when Dusk Road came out. So it is it's something I would do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice take on it. I agree with you. That makes sense to me. All the things that you said. And, we know that... Actually, I have no idea. I have no idea who knocked out... Xenon. I don't know who Alarmadillo played in the quarterfinals. Maybe it was the Akaria Gold player. Well, not a Charge Rod deck specifically. Yeah, it's got a similar shell. I mean, it's Akaria Gold. There's a little bit of overlap. Dawnwalker is pretty good against removal pile. I agree. That's one reason that I'd be playing Steward of the Past to try to combat that. Steward of the Past, not the card that it once was, but you gotta take what you can. Take what you can get with what you have. Yeah, that's the phrase, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of cards in that Shadow suite that do that silence or that shift. Removal pile. There's some versions that play Statuary Maiden, which I'm a huge fan of. I heard it on Seafood Danny's stream or his interview with Sono. So that's a really strong card. There's also Stray into Shadows in a lot of those removal pile decks, which just shut down Dawnwalker especially. And a lot of those other cards that try and recur themselves, you just can't bring them back. And I'm a big fan. I think countering Zenin Killers, which is a shadow-based deck with other shadow, is just the way to go. But that's just me, and I'm not in Masters, so you don't have to listen.
Gets a little inbred there, but yeah. That's the thing I missed most about the pre-buffed Devastating Setback. I did air quotes, but it is a buff. It was permanent neg 2. I would like to see more sweepers of a permanent neg X variety, or at least neg toughness. But yeah, I would like to see that. Yeah, and of course, AP mid range is always a fine deck to take onto the ladder. You just have a very proactive game plan, some efficient Aegis units, so that would be another way. Obviously, Killers has game against that. They have some of their deadly units that they can give Killer to, or maybe Dawnwalker. Maybe their units are just big enough to eat those units with a Xenon Initiation anyway, with only one weapon on them. But I think that's probably a fine way to go. Basically, always. Tavrod is still Tavrod. Crownwatch Paladin into Bloodletter on turn 2-3. That's still a very strong curve, very hard to beat.
Yeah, you can't scoff at the Crownwatch Paladin. She's got legs and she knows how to use them, and there's a lot of cards that complement her. But you said that your deck you'd still take in even if it was in there, regardless of what other people have tweeted about it, crushing Feln decks. So you would come in, and the first thing that I thought of about your deck, obviously, is Feeding Time, which shuts down a lot of the killer and recursion and stuff like that. Nobody wants to bring back a 2/2 piggy. So let's talk about your deck that you brought into the ETS and where it struggled and where it really excelled, and we can give some people some coaching so they can use it to climb up the ladder as quickly as you did.
Yeah, my take on Feln, the original shell of it was based on a version of Feln that Notorious GHP made as soon as the Feast Caller buff went live. And then I was playing that for a little bit, and then I put it back on the shelf. And then towards the end of the week, I picked it back up and was like, I want to make some tweaks. I had some like Thunderstrike Dragons in the main. I just didn't like. It was a little too focused on the late game. I was like, that's not the problem. I need a little bit more on the early game. And surprisingly, like as far as the early game's concerned, the hardest part of surviving the early game and getting my hailstorms to be relevant was small units with Aegis. So Crownwatch Paladin, Snowcrest Yeti, Vadius, or even in some of the mid-range mirrors or control mirrors or whatever, they have Icarias and Feast Callers of their own or what have you. Aegis units. Aegis units were the biggest problem. You just 2-for-1 yourself to get rid of them. If you didn't have Vara's favor, which sometimes you just have to fire off just to be able to make sure you hit a power every turn, the Aegis units were the problem. So I went ahead and made room to fit 4 Levitates in the main. And, at worst case, if you're just playing against Praxis tokens or something, you play it on a Feast Caller, jump over top of their units, or, cycle it on a Grenadin Drone, because you have to hit that Hailstorm on time. Whatever it is, that's fine. That's the worst case scenario, which is still good. The worst case scenario is probably playing against a unitless control deck, in which case you just cycle it the first chance you get on one of your own units. But that's a whole nother thing. Levitate did a lot of work with my list in helping me be able to survive that early game and make it to the later game. Excuse me. Yeah. So changes that I would make going forward, potentially, depending on how the metagame's looking and stuff, I would consider playing more feeding times instead of in cold blood. Swap the removal suite to make in favor of feeding time instead of in cold blood if I'm worried about units being recurred from the void. If you're playing against more Skycrag and stuff, maybe play Lightning Strikes instead of the Annihilates. I went back and forth on that change. The meta shifted a little bit even leading into the weekend before I started. I was originally playing Lightning Strikes. I was playing Annihilates, went to Lightning Strikes, went back to Annihilates, decided to put one Azendel's Gift back into the main. It's fine against mid-range, and if I'm playing against aggro, I'll just hope to strategize it or something, or find it with the crest and get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it has been, obviously it's served you well. You climbed really quickly. You did super well in the ETS, especially with that sideboard. Let's actually talk a little bit about your sideboard. I know everybody's going to look at the main decks, and that's especially the people that go on Eternal Warcry or any other site to find good decks to play in the ladder, and they don't really look at the sideboard too much. Let's talk a little bit about those cards.
Yeah, so a lot of I had a hard time figuring out what exactly I wanted for the sideboard. I asked a couple people for their input. I had a general idea of what I was looking for. Asked a couple people their input, but specifically, I mainly talked to Notorious GHP, who had decided that he wanted to play my Feln list with the Levitates and all that jazz. So we worked on it together, and a lot of the cards in the sideboard are just kind of like obvious inclusions when you're playing a shadow-based deck such as Sabotage. You just want to go ahead and probably put some of those in there in case you need them. In case you need to rip out spells or attachments from your opponent's hand. But yeah, mostly it was just to shore up the removal suite and fine-tune it in the matchups where you needed a little bit more specific answers or just more answers. Permafrost is pretty versatile. It's cheap, right? It costs 1 power. So against aggro, we usually would want to bring those in. So we went ahead and, we have 2 in the main, went ahead and put the other 2 in the side. Notorious wanted to have 4 Annihilates in this, a total of 4 Annihilates in the 90. I only wanted to play the 2 in the main, and I felt like the 3rd one in the side was good enough, because a lot of the times where we would want a 4th one, Permafrost will probably be good enough. Obviously Permafrost doesn't kill Sandstorm Titan, but it's going to kill other things in that deck, such as Heart of the Vault, or I guess it just depends on which Sandstorm Titan deck you're playing against. Again, it's Xena Killers. You're going to be able to kill a Carnosaur with it, or a Twin Brood Sauropod, kind of kill an Auric Interrogator. So, a lot of overlap. Both those cards are just going to be good in that matchup, Sometimes when you want the Annihilates, you're playing against AP mid. Lightning Strike is probably still good enough to play in that matchup for the instant speed, get your unit. It's just more instant speed removal. So it was really just to sub out, take out the bad cards, put in the good cards. When the game's too slow to be playing Dark Returns and Azendel's Gift and stuff, just bring in different removal cards. Or, Thunderstrike Dragon, so that you draw one card but have 2 blockers later on, stuff like that. The reason we have the 2 devastating setbacks, I really wanted to have 2 Lightning Storms in there, but I didn't feel like there was going to be as much Praxis tokens or as much low to the ground stuff as I had been seeing on ladder towards the middle of the week, because by the end of the week, I was noticing a lot less. And I originally wanted Lightning Storm, and wanted Lightning Storm over Devastating Setback because it comes down when I only have 2 power. It comes down on turn 2, don't have to wait till turn 3. But went ahead and just hedged the bets and played Devastating Setback instead. It's still just another board wipe against small creature decks, small unit decks. And on the other side of the coin, if we really need more sabotage-like effects, we can just play Devastating Setback, sub that in instead. Now I know the main card that probably caught people's eyes in the sideboard was the Scourge of Frostholm.
Yes, that's what I was waiting on the whole time. I was like, just talk about Scourge. Just talk about
Scourge.
Giant Dinosaur Godzilla.
Yeah, we know when Annihilate's good. We care. I've played Permafrost since set 1. Who cares? Let's talk about the Scourge. Yeah. Yeah, so Scourge of Frostholm was Notorious GHP's idea. It was just a slot mainly for against other control decks, or maybe some slow mid-range decks, what have you. And that was his idea. If I wasn't even considering the card didn't even enter my mindset of cards I was considering. I had like a list. There was probably another like 7 to 10 cards that were in the consideration for at least one slot in the sideboard. Scourge of Frostholm was not on my list, but Notorious was like, yeah, we should play a Scourge. If he hadn't suggested it, it probably would have been a second copy of Azendel's Gift. But I, unfortunately, never got to cast the card in the entire tournament in the, seven matches I had. I boarded it in a couple of matchups. I played a Feln Mirror at some point, and I had it in one of my opening hands, but it was not a keepable hand, so I had to redraw. Never saw it again. So there was never a time where it was stranded in my hand. I couldn't cast it, so that's good. I just never drew the card. It's a one of, and there's 75 card decks in Eternal. And I am not playing Celestial Omen. I was not going for the full-on control, slow version of Feln. That said, I did talk to Notorious about that card after the tournament, asked him if he played it, if he got to do anything with it, told him my experience that I just explained to you, and he said, in fact, I did bring it in a few times. I even cast it in a Feln Mirror, and I won the game on the spot because of it. And, it's a powerful card. It's a really neat card. And just in case some people are unfamiliar with the card, it's a 10-cost primal 8/8 dinosaur. Enemies can't play spells. So they can't kill it. They just can't kill it. Maybe they can permafrost it so that it can't attack. Maybe they can just play enough units to where you don't attack with it. But they can't kill it. So that's the end of you having to worry about them killing your cards, or drawing more cards, or, returning their units, whatever it is. It's staying on the board, and they're not casting any more spoils for the rest of the game. So it's a nice, kind of like a prison-style card. Just lock the opponent out of in some cases, of having fun. And that's great. Because then I have more fun.
I was going to say, it stops them from having fun, but you get to have fun. You touched on a point that I was going to bring in, and I'll go ahead and say it. Okay. First of all, I never profess to be a deck builder. I am a pilot for sure. When I am able to play in the ETS in the coming months, I will ask for people to build my decks on Team Rankstar or something like that. Not a good deck builder. I'm a deck pilot, and I play limited. However, while Scourge of Frostholm is awesome, just the flavor of the card is great, the effect is cool, you said what I was thinking, and that is to bring in a second Azendale, or another copy of Azendel's Gift. And while you have proven on stream that Azendel's Gift is not a guaranteed win, it absolutely does just shake so many players when they get hit with it, especially if they don't have a way to remove it. it is an equalizer if nothing else, and knowing that you don't have to worry about 6 cards in somebody's hand, it's just whatever they draw off the top from then on. It's great.
It's a breath of fresh air when you successfully get an Azendale's Gift on your opponent. Yeah, I have a few stories about Azendale's Gift here. That card was talked about a lot on my stream this week. Some people proclaiming that the card is broken. They should delete it. You know, well, you hear that a lot. People are always talking about how we should delete Azendale's Gift, nerf the card, take it out of the game, whatever. Those people are silly. That's fine. But in the film mirror on ladder earlier this week, I got gifted. It happened. And you know what happened after that? I already had at least one unit on the table. I played a Champion of Cunning. And then I killed my opponent. Because all they did was make me discard my other 2 copies of Champion of Cunning and my 2 copies of Black Sky Harbinger and the other 2 copies of Feast Caller in my hand. They did not make me discard. They couldn't kill this one Champion of Cunning, backed up by whatever other unit was. Maybe a Felon Bloodcaster. Maybe it's a Feast Caller, but I think they already had killed a Feast Caller. And then I just killed the opponent. It didn't matter. I killed him over the course of the next 2 or 3 turns. They just couldn't deal with my actual board. They just had card draw and nothing. Air. So that was cool. But during the tournament, there was, when I did play the Felon Mirror during the ETS, I believe that was round 5. I think that's when I picked up my first loss. I ended up losing the match overall. I won this game, but my opponent had a Felon Bloodcaster in play. They had 7 power. I didn't really have much of a board state. I'm not really putting a lot of pressure on them. They have Face Aegis. I do not. I think I had a Felon Bloodcaster as well. They decided not to activate Felon Bloodcaster. It's called Bloodcaster, right? I always combine Feast Caller and Bloodcaster and swap the names in my brain. Anyways, my opponent was not playing Azendale's Gift at all in the 90. Not in the main, not in the side, nothing. They did not have that card. I don't know if this was pre-board. This was game 2, I'm pretty sure. So either way, they didn't have access to the card. I had even considered boarding it out so that they couldn't Bloodcaster it out of my deck. That'd be silly. Just play the game. Anyways, my opponent decided not to activate it. They played like a Champion of Cunning. Totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. You know what card I drew for turn, Mantid Man? Huh? You know what card I drew for turn?
Go ahead and tell me, because I don't.
I drew Azendale's Gift.
Got him!
And my opponent almost made the list at that moment. They made the list. Let's be honest. Anyways, yeah, I drew Azendale's Gift. And I ultimately ended up winning that game because of Azendale's Gift. It's a very good card. It's swingy. I like it. We should keep it in the game. It's frustrating to get hit by it sometimes, but I would rather it's in the game than not.
And it's not, look, completely understand the snap decision when people say, "Oh, pull it out," because it is a frustrating card to get hit by, especially if you're playing a deck that has to set up and then you lose your setup because you don't have the cards in your hand. I get it, but guys, it is at best case scenario, without ramping or anything like that, it's a turn 7 card. And they're sacrificing doing anything else just to get the cards in their hand. They're not putting another threat on the board. They're not dealing damage to you, anything like that. So I get it. Very frustrating, but it serves its purpose. Every good card game has an equalizer. And if you make the sacrifice like that on such a late game turn, it should have a big payoff. And I think keeping your opponent's hand empty is an equivalent payoff. So I applaud the creation of the card. I would be very upset if it got changed or removed. I think it's in the exact spot it should be. And if you draw cards that protect your face, if you have that Aegis on, you can stop from discarding a card for a turn or 2. And I don't think there's anything else to say about it. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you stop them from utilizing their sacrifice. If you block them being able to do that on turn 7 or turn 8, then they're stuck. They were counting on this for 2 or 3 turns, and you drop that Primal Waystone or any of those cards that generate an Aegis on you. Man, your opponent feels the pain from trying to build to that.
I once played a match versus Akaria Blue as a Felon player, or had to be a Felon player. That's the main place you see Azendale's Gift. And I was ready to do it. The opponent puts up a Face Aegis on turn 7. I go to my turn. Okay. Well, I'm going to break your Face Aegis so I can do this next turn. All right. They don't put up another one. I play the Gift. They have Face Aegis. Or I play the gift. They play Face Aegis, Ikaria. They don't discard anything they attack. The next turn, they play a Face Aegis again, play another Ikaria. I died. I survived that turn, but then they never discarded their hand. They just killed me with. They just kept playing. They kept drawing Cobalt Waystones after I gifted them. Never ended up discarding a card. They stopped me from doing it the turn I wanted to do it, and I had to wait a whole another turn before I was able to deploy my gift. And then they blocked me from making them discard their hand for 2 turns. Maybe by luck, maybe they had the cards already. I don't know. They were just waiting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is one of 2 things. It's extreme luck at drawing the cards as you need them, or 2, which is actually probably more likely, it is excellent economy. It's knowing what can be in your opponent's deck, or in this case, what is in your opponent's deck. But when you go on the ladder, it's not just about taking a deck that's got a bunch of legendaries and that's top tier. Guys, that you can have every card in the game. You can play the decks that ThePlatypusKing or that whoever won the ETS is playing, and you will still be terrible if you don't understand the mechanics behind piloting the deck or just the how to play the game. There's these streamers who take 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of their day, like ThePlatypusKing does, and they sit and they tell you what they're doing and why. And you can have all the best cards, and you can sit down and you can get frustrated losing match after match because you're not paying attention. And what Platypus was just describing is knowing the economy of the game, understanding what could happen, and holding some cards to do it because it's not the appropriate time to play them. And that wins games. It's not legendaries. It's not broken cards. It is understanding your deck to the fullest and understanding what your opponents could have. And that's my public service announcement for the day.
And even more, when to play around the card, when not to play around the card. Do you play out a Cobalt Waystone to get that 7th power when you don't need that 7th power this turn? Knowing that your opponent could pop that when you already have Face Aegis? Do you waste your Face Aegis just to hit your power this turn or not? That's a very important decision. It's a very small thing, but it could end up being the entire that could change the entire game because you decided to play that Cobalt Waystone that turn when you already had a Face Aegis. Yep. Face Aegis is very powerful.
Yeah, so moral of the story is pay attention and don't do what Platy did and rely on Azendale's gift because it's not a broken card.
Yeah. I had a ladder match versus Notorious during the tournament and waiting for rounds. And he emoted tough break partner and then put Azendale's gift on me. And then I emoted, I've seen how this ends. I put Azendale's gift on him. I don't remember who. I think I ended up drawing better from that point, but it was pretty funny. It's like we just gifted each other. He told me afterwards, he told the stream, I'm sorry, Platy. I don't want to do this. I just have to do this. And then he's like, what a jerk! He gifted me back. I thought we were friends. Yeah. Anyways. That's enough about Felm Control and Azendale's gift.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Fel Control, but it's going to be indirectly. Okay. So we're going to talk a bit about the card changes. I'm going to call them buffs probably, but we'll just call them changes when I can think about it. So we have 4 changes. 2 of them we'll talk about probably haven't had as much of an impact. Snapping Brush Stalker is now a 5/5. It was a 5/4. I don't think it matters. I'm not going to go on until you approve that, though.
Yeah, I mean, nobody cares about that change.
All right. The next one is something that I think people thought was going to be an impact, but it has turned out not to really do much, and that's Crown Watch Press Gang has gone from a 5 with a single justice requirement down to 4 single justice requirement.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a role player card. I've played against it more this week than I ever have, and it still hasn't done a whole lot. The Overmaster had a pretty interesting take with the card. He had
that was that clock, not clock roach, but the little roaches, the just Talk shadow tick. Roaches.
Talk
yeah,
tick.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't, like, as I was trying out the list, it was pretty interesting. Like, I didn't see, some of this stuff was probably pretty obvious for other players. I haven't played with Tactic. I haven't played with Crown Watch, Press Gang. Yeah, the main thing you want to do is you want to play you want your Tactic to die, and then you want to play your Press Gang, get that Tactic, and draw a different random card. You know, the next card on top of your deck. That's a pretty cool synergy. There was one game where I was able to almost, or maybe I almost succeeded, or I did succeed in outgrinding like an Ephemeral Wisp Vault of Praxis deck with my Crown Watch, Press Gangs, Dark Returns, and Tactics. It was really silly, really silly. Yeah, that card change overall doesn't really matter. You're gonna bump into the card interactions a little bit more on ladder. I played against a Cliffside Porter, Crown Watch, Press Gang, Nostrix deck a bunch of times today specifically. But overall, it's not gonna be the new tier 0. Please nerf this card deck.
Well, let's talk about one that could be, because I've seen it in some interesting places. That is Caleb Reborn. Now, the card itself has not changed much, except the ultimate, which was 6 cost, is now 5 cost, and it is definitely making a resurgence. You're seeing a lot of decks, especially one of the highest ranked decks on Eternal Warcry right now is Moment of Caleb, which is a Moment of Creation deck that runs Caleb Reborn now.
I have not tried doing that, despite having played a lot of Moment of Creation in the last month. That sounds fun. I'd try it out. I have played a lot of Caleb this week in Crown of Possibility decks. And I didn't even think about that specific interaction until I had a Caleb on the table with a Crown or 2 already on my person. I'm like, oh my lord, who cares about all these other cards I could cast this turn? I should do this. I should alt Caleb now and try to high roll some Destiny and all sorts of other good stuff. I'm just going to get more keywords, probably.
Yep, absolutely. Well, just to give credit where credit is due, the Moment of Caleb deck I'm talking about is created by the Ski J, another premier deck creator, very popular. Definitely go check it out. It's a great deck. I think Caleb is in a much better place. I think he was good before. He saw some play in that Neon Spellcrag deck for a while there. That was awesome. Carried myself and my wife to Masters after Lights Out Ace played it, and you played it some on your stream. But I think it's in a much better place now. The versions of the decks that used Caleb before used him specifically for that boost that he got when spells were played. Now you can use him for those boosts, and you can use his ultimate. It's a little bit more attainable and makes a little bit more sense.
Absolutely. I mean, Caleb does still have the main problem that a lot of Skycard cards have, and that's a lack of a real home. It doesn't have a really great role to fill in any archetype specifically, but it is objectively a powerful card. It is objectively more powerful now, and I'm looking forward to it finding a real home, finding a deck that loves it.
Well, everybody listening who is theory crafter and deck builder, find Caleb a home. But now let's talk about the big brother of these card update changes, and the one that everybody is trying to put to the test, and that is Jotun Feast Caller, not Feast Caster, not Blood, whatever. It's Jotun Feast Caller. He was a 4/3, would die to Hailstorm or something like that after his Aegis was popped. Well, now he is a 4/4, and we talked a little bit in our last podcast. One hit point means the world in a lot of cases, and it has proven to be true with this.
Yeah, that's the card that I've been playing with or brewing around with the most this week, and I feel like I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of people have been doing that. And it's the main reason I wanted to try Feln again. That was the first place that I tried it on purpose after the buff. You know, I went back. I tried it. I'm like, okay, that was cool. Let's move on to something else. No, wait, let's go back to this. I just kept playing around with it, and yeah, Feasty Boy, love my Feasty Boy. He has definitely been the out of the cards that were changed. Now we're here a week later, just over a week later after the card changes happened. It has proven to be the most significant buff. It has changed the meta the most out of all these cards. And it was definitely another part of the influence for me playing Levitate in my film list, so I can prevent other opposing feast callers from getting me without having to 2-for-1 myself.
That's right. Well, he is. We're back into the age of Diesel, and as the chat is saying, for those people who are watching live, it's time to feast. So keep building the decks around Feast Caller. Find just all the great stuff it can do, and see if you can beat Platypus King's record of 7 cards drawn off the back of Feast Caller earlier this week.
Yeah, getting it up to the number 7. Yes. It's I had never done that before. That was awesome.
I've never seen a game go past, like, I've drawn 4 and been in a position where I probably would have been able to draw 7, but usually just people scoop. When you're able to draw 4 cards and essentially refresh your entire hand, get some.
Little brothers, let us feast. Yeah. Love me some Feast Caller.
All right, so anything else about the card changes? Think they were all required? Do you think they were good? Obviously, we both agree on Feast Caller and Caleb, but Press Gang, maybe it'll see some play now and somebody will find a niche spot for it. Brush Stalker, maybe something will happen, I guess. I don't know.
That card's mostly for limited, I think. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think pretty much all that needs to be said or can be said has been said between last week and this week about the card changes. Overall, yeah, they're great. Gets a 1 out of 1. Best card changes ever.
1 out of 1. Best card changes ever. Fantastic. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the new league and the card back. I'll go ahead and say before we get into the nitty-gritty on the changes that they made to league, that new card back is sweet. I can't wait to get it. Even if I don't play in the league, I'm definitely spending the money, the gold, to get that new card back.
Yeah, it looks pretty sweet. I'm gonna pull up the image on the stream here for the people watching on video.
Yep. For those of you listening in the future while he's doing that, if you haven't seen it, obviously it's on Direwolf Digital's website. It's on Twitter. It's in the Discord. But it has kind of this door feel to it. It's like a oak dark wood with metal banding and this bright blue gem that's just shining away in the middle. And it's got some kind of ancillary gems and a triangle around it. It's a great looking card back. I liked last month's a bunch. There's a bunch of people who kind of hated on it. I have seen no hate on this card back for good reason, I think.
Yeah, last month's was a little there was contrasting opinions throughout the community, but this one has pretty universally been heralded as amazing. It looks beautiful. I mean, it's themed after Caleb, right? It goes with that storyline for the league this month, right? And so, well, Caleb is cooler than Bryn, because I don't know anything about Bryn. Caleb is cooler than Bryn, specifically the new Caleb. Whatever happened to him to make him into this new Caleb we have, I like that. And B, I don't know, it just looks more like a card frame.
It does. It's great, and we'll talk about the lore stuff in a minute. But let's hit that league first.
Yes.
So the big thing with the league is they changed some of the cards and stuff, the way that you get cards. I'm going to pull the data up here in a second, but there's a lot of complaints about the way it worked before. It was a little clunky. There's a lot of games you had to play. There's a lot of discrepancy over like why you were getting cards that you were getting. So they changed some stuff, and I'm pulling that up now so we can talk about it a touch.
Yeah, I entered the league day 1, Monday last week. I narrowed down. I didn't open anything that was super bomby. I didn't open up a single legendary. I misread. I thought in the card or the league changes, they said that we would be getting 4 packs of Empty Throne and 2 packs of Omen and 2 packs of Dusk Road. But that was I just misread it. I misread it. It's 4 packs of Dusk Road, 2 packs of Empty Throne, and 2 packs of Omens, and so that threw me off when I first went to open my packs. I was like, oh, okay. I was actually excited that it was 4 packs of Empty Throne, to be honest. I just really like that.
Yeah.
Really like set 1.
It is. Set 1 is great. It's got a bunch of the strongest cards in the game, and it even now after they've released a bunch of the other cards, and outside of Empty Throne, a lot of the other really strong cards come from the campaigns. So all you have to do is play. You don't have to buy. You don't have to grind. Just play those campaigns and you get those. But the other things that they have changed this month, the biggest one is every week you get 2 new packs instead of 1 to add to your pool. So there'll be 2 packs of Dusk Road in the second week, 2 packs of Omens in the third week, and 2 packs of Empty Throne in the fourth week, for a total of 14 packs for 7,500 gold over the course of the entire league. Great deal right there, especially with the prize support after and the card back. And by the end, if you're not a good limited player, you'll essentially be a constructed deck player because you'll have 14 packs of cards that you're dealing with at that point. Ooh, excuse me.
That's 11.5 thousand gold for entry, but yeah, still a good value. Still very good value.
Yeah, sorry, 11.5.
Yes. Yeah, I obviously approve of these changes. Last month, every time it was time for a new pack or whatever, it didn't really feel like it had changed my deck all that much. 2 packs, well, when I log on tomorrow, I'm hoping those 2 packs are really good, otherwise I'm going to re-roll my deck. I'm going to drop and re-sign up. But
See, that's what I was
2
thinking.
packs are more, yeah.
Yeah. And the chat's saying 12.5. That's what I was saying. 7,500 more than just a draft because you're getting a boatload of cards. So yeah, 12.5 in total, 7,500 more than just a regular 5K draft.
Yeah, and if you're just gonna be one of those people that buys packs from the store with your gold, well, you're still getting more bang for your buck. You just have to wait.
Yep. Yeah, it gets spread out across it. All right. So, new league setup. You're happy about it. There's gonna be enough impact on the game now. I know I am. I'll be interested to try it. I still feel like it's gonna be a bit grindy. 30 games a week if you include your tiebreakers. It seems crazy to me, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it'll feel a little bit more fresh since I'll have a better, more changed deck every week.
Yeah, I have not played any games with my deck yet because I have not built a deck. I narrowed it down a lot. I trimmed down, just had all the playable cards, and even narrowed it down to the 3 best colors. Didn't feel like tuning the deck. Wanted to rush the Masters this week, so I saved my deck. When I came back the next day to finish building my deck, it didn't actually save the partial deck that I had made. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I'll just wait see if these next 2 packs are any good, and then I'll just drop and sign back up. I have too much gold anyway. Perks of being a king.
Oh, too much gold. Yeah, that first world Eternal player problems. Well, let's actually. I was gonna jump into lore and stuff, but let's take. That's a great transition, Platypus. Well planned. There was a fantastic little write-up on the subreddit this week, and I want to just give a shout out to RJ Rules 64, posted on the Eternal Card Game subreddit. His post title was, "This feels like the first truly free-to-play game I have played in a long time." I'm just going to go ahead and read his post to you because it's only a few sentences long, but I feel like if you guys follow me on the Team Rank Star website and read the Eternal Vanguard stuff I put out about community and how to, support the game and support each other and be good, this guy just embodies that. So again, shout out to RJ Rules 64 on Reddit, the Eternal Card Game subreddit. I started playing Eternal a few days ago, and oh my god, it is amazing. I'm having so much fun. So far, I haven't felt any need to buy anything in the game at all. I can't believe that many cards that they give you in the first couple of decks are viable at a competitive level. I dabbled in Hearthstone at one point, but I was soon soured by the constant pressure, both direct and indirect, to make purchases. even just compared to any other free-to-play mobile game, they all suck. As we all know, mobile gaming is in a really bad place at the moment. You either get ads every other minute, or you have to buy stuff to get anywhere with it. Parentheses. We call that a paywall, folks. For you'll hear us talk about that all the time. So you either get ads every minute, or you have to buy stuff to get anywhere with it. I'm loving this game and the free-to-play nature of it, so much so that I bought some gems just to support the developers. They've just been sitting in my account though, because I don't feel the need to spend them on anything yet. I can't wait to play more Eternal. And the responses to this were just resounding. I mean, there's a bunch of premier players, content creators that responded on his subreddit post, and everybody very much agrees. And I encourage anybody listening to the podcast trying to find out if they want to play Eternal because their friends have talked about it, do it. It's a great game, and you don't have to spend a penny. I think ThePlatypusKing, outside of the stuff that you can't get from grinding, like the Icaria the Icaria avatar and the shiny influence cards or power cards, I don't think you've actually spent any money on buying packs or anything.
When I first started playing the game, I really enjoyed the game and I wanted to support them. I said basically exactly what this guy said to all my friends, and went ahead and here's some money, and bought a couple boxes of set 1. But other than that, no, I haven't. I bought the Founders Pack at Christmas time with a gift card that somebody gave me, so it didn't even feel like I was spending money. And I bought a couple boxes when I started playing the game. After playing it for a month, did I need the packs? No. I just wanted to support the game, and it's fun to open packs. Yeah, I agree with everything this kid said. This user said. I don't know what their kid, but I even commented on it saying it's a very generous game for sure, and I had already upvoted this yesterday at some point. Very, very good post. I'm happy to see posts like this from anybody and everybody. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and seeing it was the second most popular post of the week this week, so I'm pretty happy about that. One of the other really high posts on Reddit this week in the Eternal subreddit is something that people have been talking about on the Discord. You hear about it in videos every once in a while, and it's something we've actually talked about in ThePlatypusKing stream some and in our team private chat, and it is that we're allowed to customize our decks with deck art, individual decks with deck art and all that kind of stuff. How about allowing further customization with card backs and avatars? And what they mean by that is buy decks. So when you're crafting your deck, you set what your card art is, or your deck art's going to be. You set what your deck or your card back is going to be. You set what your avatar is going to be, so you don't have to go and manually change it. And I think that is a great idea. So much so that I would add in that you can set totems to attach to your specific decks. Because when I'm playing a shadow deck, I don't have a problem with my opponent knowing right out of the gate that I'm playing a shadow deck with it showing up my shadow totem or throwing that empty throne totem that I got in the Founders Pack up. I think that's a great idea, and especially as we get more card backs, we're going to get a new card back every month. We're going to get all this cool stuff. I would love to be able to customize my decks instead of having to change stuff in between if I'm going to be bouncing around.
Absolutely. I think that would be a great feature to add to the game, and I don't think it would be that difficult for them to add it, to implement it. I guess it's just maybe they just haven't had the idea necessarily to do that, but I'm sure if posts like that gain enough traction on Reddit or other community sites or the official Eternal Discord, wherever, if they see that said enough times, I think they will definitely add that. I would love to be able to set my thumpity thump thump avatar to every Yeti deck that I play automatically and not have to think about it. And same, if we're getting more card backs that are directly tied to lore or specific characters, like last month's was Bryn, and there was a Bryn avatar, and now I'm going to go build a deck and Bryn is in it, yeah, I would love to just be able to automatically decide that those things are attached to this deck. So when I load up a game, it automatically changes my card back and my avatar to those things when I play that deck.
Absolutely.
Hey, and you could even leave the slot empty, and it would just show whatever your default is, whatever you're already using in your profile stats, right? I approve of this idea. It'd be a great idea.
Yeah. So So employees listening or even community members send out, go to that subreddit post and like it, throw it up on Twitter that you think it's a good idea. I think it would be great for everybody. There's a lot of button pushing, man. And don't get me wrong, I'm not super lazy, but it's something I was just clicking through. It's like 8 or 9 clicks, and I play more on my iPad than I do on my computer, so it's even more like arduous to go through and change my avatar and things like that.
If I was still playing on my mobile device, I would never change anything cosmetically. And I would never brew my own deck, probably.
Yeah.
It's a pain to do that type of thing on a phone. That's just more of a personal preference.
The deck building is tough on mobile. The game is obviously designed to be played on a desktop, and then when you have your stuff built, on the go, you can run your decks and show your friends, and I'm all right with that. But yeah, the customization, giving people the ability to make their game have a little bit more of their personality to it, I think would be a great idea. All right. So the only other thing I want to talk about from the community side, and then we'll jump into the lore stuff a little bit, is for the last week to 2 weeks, I want to say, there's been a lot of speculation in the Discords, the different Eternal Discords on the subreddit. People saying, I got a bunch of packs from my season rewards and all this kind of stuff, and I should have gotten 3 or 4 legendaries. I'm so mad, and I only got 2. They changed it. They changed the drop rates. Well, Scarlatch, who is one of the most outspoken devs for the game, he's very active on the Discord. He's very active on Reddit. He reads your posts. He follows people on Twitter. He has made an official announcement last week that said nothing changed. We would have announced it if we changed it. So I trust that that's the case. Granted, conspiracy theorists will say, well, of course, the government wouldn't tell you if they were changing stuff, so the developers aren't going to tell you either. Yeah, whatever. I mean...
And then their tinfoil hat blows off in the wind.
That's right. Don't get me wrong. I love a good conspiracy theory. That's a different topic for a different day. But if they're taking the time out of their day to post on just a random subreddit post that they did not change it, they didn't change it. And they've told us about some stuff that people were not happy about in the past. They told us about nerfs and stuff like that. So if they were going to change it, I'm sure they would tell us about it.
Yeah, I trust Scarlatch. I trust that the drop rates have not changed.
Yeah, if it was LSV saying that they hadn't changed, or Chapin, something like that, maybe a different story. But Scarlatch coming out and saying that nothing is different, I'm on board.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, let's jump into the lore stuff. So we're in chapter 18. The lore title for this month is A Search for Answers. And I'm just going to read you the tagline here. The Search for Answers, the tagline for this chapter is, the acorn seeks a second tree. When it would thrive as one, unwilling to let secrets be, you are your father's son. That's something we've heard in the campaigns before. That is obviously related to Caleb, the uncrowned prince and the protagonist of the first campaign, the training campaign in the game itself. Caiaphas's first son and the red scion in the lore section.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
Yes.
All right. So in chapter 18, we find out they've reinforced some things that we already knew, and they've given us some new information. Caleb is trying to find out who his mother is after the death of his father. More specifically, he wants to find out who his mother is to give him legitimacy to the throne, because after he was born and his mother, quote unquote, disappeared, Argenport was in a bad place, and Caiaphas married Island, the primal scion. In doing so, there was a deal that was struck that said that only a child of Island and Caiaphas could be crowned or could take the throne after Caiaphas died. That person would be Vara, the Scion of Shadow. But because she abandoned her post and she left after Caiaphas died, the throne is empty, and that's how we got the quote unquote problems with Roland. But so Vara abandoned her post, embraced the shadow. Caleb wasn't allowed to take the throne. There's just been this war for the throne. There's been the problems, the rebellions. That's the whole plot of the game. And Caleb has just been told that he can never have the throne. He's an illegitimate son. There's no proof of who his mother is, and Caiaphas is dead, so he can't back him up. So we find out in chapter 18 that through Caleb's travels that the sunken tower is actually in the Calderan cradle. It's in this lake that dragons breed at. And I thought that was a really cool reveal. It's kind of shown in the card art for Sunken Tower. You see these broken eggs, but it's never explicitly stated until this point. So Caleb travels to the cold north into the Calderan cradle, and he finds this beautiful lake, and he finds these elders, and they tell him that there's something in the lake that keeps it warm. It's why the dragons like it so much. So he jumps in, and what does he find inside the Sunken Tower? He finds these pots that are filled with this purple goo. And he looks inside and he sees that these are clones of his father, Caiaphas. Most notably, the card Failed Reflection. They're all twisted. They all have something wrong with them. And Caleb fights with this failed reflection of his father, this failed clone of Caiaphas. And they fight to the death. And Caleb emerges victorious. But he is so broken as a man. He has found out that either he wasn't good enough for his dad, that he had to make clones, or somebody thought that knew that Caiaphas was going to die and they were going to replace him. So they were trying to make these clones. So Caleb pulls himself out of the Calderan cradle, out of this lake, and on the shores, he sheds his armor, he abandons his sword, and he is reborn. He is the same Caleb as he was before, but after killing the clones of his father and destroying the Sunken Tower, he has decided that he is on this new mission. He is going to find out what's wrong in the world, why these things are happening, and he is reborn on this mission. It's no longer about reclaiming the throne just for himself. It's about claiming the throne to bring order back to not only Argenport, but Temeria, the world at large.
That's quite the story. Very fantastical. And a lot of that stuff is we saw hints of, as you stated, in various card arts. I'm surprised. I definitely recall seeing something with Caleb swimming down to the Sunken Tower, something like that. And here it is. Now we have the story for what that's about.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm a big fan. I know a lot of people want to play the card games and they want tournaments with prize support and they want stuff like that. But man, I'm big into the lore. That's one of the reasons I gave Hearthstone a shot, is because I really liked just the Warcraft lore and things like that. But Eternal already is just such a better CCG. It's such a better representation of what a card game can be. Having the lore also, yeah, hands down. Having the lore that comes with it, having the story just expand, and now especially on this month-to-month basis, we get these big chunks of storyline. Finding out small things like the Sunken Tower was in the bottom of the Calderan cradle. That's why dragons are bred there, because the waters are hot, even though it's in the frozen north. Like, that's just cool to me. I like that they're piecing all this stuff together, and it shows that they have this storyline built, because it shows in the card art. We knew the Sunken Tower was below water.
December.
Yeah, and we knew the Sunken Tower was below the water, and we saw the dragon eggs on the ground around it, and Failed Reflection was in it. Everybody's like, what is that? Is that a clone of Caleb? Is that a clone of Caiaphas? Nobody really knows. Well, they've told us, and I'm pretty stoked to see what they're going to do with it, that's for sure.
Same.
So,
do you think that they're going to...
Oh, go ahead.
Do you think they're gonna make a Caleb promo for this month?
Well, that's what I was about to do. So we talked about the lore, and they've done a good job of relating the promo to it. Are they gonna do another Caleb? I don't think so. We got 2 Calebs right now.
Caiaphas?
I'm thinking maybe something followed him out of the lake. Maybe one of the reflections didn't die, or maybe we get maybe we get one of the elders. The storyline, if you go to the Direwolf webpage, go to the chapter 18 section, they have this storyline and they talk about some of the elders that are around the Caldarian Cradle. So I think that'll actually be what it is. I think it's going to be another one of the elders around the Caldarian Cradle. Maybe it'll be, they have like Mistveil Magus is one of them. He summons a dragon when he comes into play. Pretty good card. The one they reference in the lore section is Ridgeline Watcher, which is a common 4/3/3 with Aegis. It doesn't really do anything. So I'm thinking that a new elder comes in. It'll be a primal, maybe Skycrag Elder. That's my bet is what the new promo will be.
Yeah, primal or Skycrag. That makes sense to me. Last month we got 2 promos, right? We ended up getting Dizo and Bryn both in the month of April. Or did we get Dizo at the end of March?
I think Dizo was the end of March. It was right at the end of March.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only other thing that I think of, if I'm going to speculate, is again the chapter 18 write-up. It talks about Caiaphas's journals. They make a very big point that Caleb is following the footsteps of his father in these journals. That's why he went north to find out what was going on. That's how he stumbled across the Sunken Tower, was his father's books, these journals that he kept. So I'm thinking maybe I think they have said, and somebody will correct me on Twitter or something, or maybe even in the chat, I think they have said that the promo every month will be a new hero. But if it's not a hero, if it's not a person, I think it could be Caiaphas's journals.
Yeah, like a relic. Caiaphas is Elysian, right? Or do we have any thought?
Caiaphas is... I mean, I guess technically in the storyline he's all the colors.
Fair.
But yeah, I would think I think he is Elysian. I think he comes from that part of the country before he took the throne.
At least leans that way, maybe. Yeah, maybe if it were a relic, if the promo is a relic and it's Caiaphas's journals in some capacity, my theory would be that it's an Elysian card. But in the abstract, yeah, I think my prediction is that it's a Skycrag or Primal card. I agree with that idea that you had.
Very cool. Well, let's get a little bit further into the speculation side. So, there have been some leaked art images, and we're going to talk about one of the oldest ones first. It is this elf-looking girl. I don't want to say elf because I don't know for sure, but there are elves in the game. We just haven't had that many. She is dressed in this great rogue outfit. I think Platy's going to try and put it up on the screen for the people watching live. But she's dressed in this black, tight leather kind of cat suit, very roguish, thief-looking, long blonde, like silvery hair, big elf ears sticking out the side. And she's walking away from this cart that she has quite clearly blown up because she is carrying a torch in her hand. And it's obviously card art. Going to be used at some point, probably some point very soon. I would love some speculation on your behalf, and maybe we'll read a little bit of the chat. But what do you think? If this is a card, is this a unit, or is this an ability, like a spell? What do we got going on here?
That is a good question. Yeah, I think it's an elf. I feel like it's a Rakano card. This card looks Rakano to me. Here's my prediction. It's a 4-drop. It's a 4-cast Rakano unit. Not sure what the stat line would be. That part I'm not too. Doesn't matter. I think it's going to, in some way, create fire bombs to put in your opponent's deck, or allow you to sacrifice units to deal damage, which I guess in that case would be more of a Stone Scar ability, but something like that. It looks like it feels like she just blew this thing up with dynamite. That's the vibe I'm getting here.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting as well. This
with a firebomb.
Yeah, this art could be passed off as sabotage. If you told me there was a card named Sabotage in the game, and you put this art in front of me, I would absolutely say, "Yep, that's sabotage right there." So I could see it. I like your thought process of adding firebombs. I would love a mechanic to just continue to force firebombs into people's decks. That would be great. But my thought process was your second theory, that it is a Stone Scar card that's going to have a sabotage style effect, maybe some additional hand control or resource destruction, maybe something like that. Because that's kind of the vibe that this card gives off to me is destruction or resource specifically. She's attacked this caravan. She blew up this cart. So power, some influence goes away. Maybe you wipe a color of influence out of somebody's power pool.
Maybe it's a unit with the summon ability, either a summon ability or an activated ability to. Well, the first idea was summon ability treachery. Look at the opponent's hand, and shock them with do 2 damage to them and take a unit from their hand. Or maybe it'd be straight up sabotage type of a thing. Get a non-unit card out of their hand. But some kind of thing, like, on your idea of, like, it being hand disruption, something more akin to, like, treachery, it would be my thought process, stapled onto a unit. I think this is a unit. That's my bold stance. It's a unit. What it does, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think it is. I think it's going to be a unit as well. I think that treachery or sabotage kind of stop. For the people not watching live, somebody in chat had a great point with the release of Lethari Sky. What is it? Sky Strider. Yeah, Sky Strider. With Lethari Sky Strider, more elves would be on the way. So I agree that this is probably an elf. It's going to ride on the back of that to trigger more of that kind of tribal mentality. So it's a unit with some cool effect attached to it, which brings us to our other leaked art. This one very much feels like an elf, especially in the Eternal game. For those not able to see the screen that are listening to audio later, this is a very purple-haired, purple hue-skinned woman. She's cloaked, kind of hiding, a little bit of stealth going on, maybe walking away from something. So she's got some kind of wisps of magic coming off of her, big gem on her belt, and a couple of potions hanging from her belt as well.
Maybe it's poison.
Maybe it's poison. Maybe she is deadly. But she looks like she's carrying a staff, so I think she might be a mage of some kind. I would love to see this being an elf unit with more unblockable. I love the unblockable mechanic. I think it is very oppressive. Don't get me wrong. You can't do a lot with it. If you introduce too many unblockable units, you're going to see control spike and it'll be problematic. But that's kind of the feeling that a lot of these elves give, that they either are unblockable or they want to be unblockable. Your Beast Caller is an elf, things like that. So cool looking art. Could be a great card. What do you think it's going to be?
With that purple hue, I guess the elves already have a lot. Some of the elves already do have the purple skin, but I had the crazy thought of what if it was a elf Umbran person. But anyways, yeah, it's probably either a shadow card or a Feln card. I guess it could just be primal, but I'm thinking this card is Feln. I think it's a unit. I'll be surprised if either of these two spoiled arts will end up being not units. What does this card do? That's a tricky question. I can't really tell. I don't really have much of a theory. Yeah, unblockable, that makes sense a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. That's anticlimactic.
Yeah, I know, you're kind of stumped. So the chat is saying, the card is probably Umbran. Scarletch hinted on Discord. I'm going to call BS right there. The Umbran are very clearly defined in the game. Their art is very clear. They are that energy, dark purple. Now, I understand. I know what they're talking about. Scarletch did hint that it would have something to do with Umbran. I think that she could be a summoner. She could be bringing Umbran in. If she's on the field when X something or other happens, or every time you play a spell, play a 1/1 Umbran or something like that. I don't think she is an Umbran. I think she is an elf. But she absolutely could have something to do with Umbran. The color scheme matches Umbran, are very shadow. It's a good looking card. And the I would be very surprised if it was not an elf.
It's a Feln elf with infiltrate. That's my hot take.
I'll take it, man. Yeah, and maybe they'll release some. Maybe this will have lore attached to it where the Radiant, which include the Umbran, maybe they are, transcended living creatures. Maybe an elf or a human or whatever can become a Radiant or become, a Dark Radiant, which are the Umbran. I don't know. We'll see. She looks cool.
Obviously, I what I meant when I was referring to Umbran is specifically the unit type Radiant.
Yeah.
I think that was obvious though, but yeah, I'm not used to seeing Umbran with hair, but someone in the chat did point out Umbran Coaxer, or to compare this card to Umbran Coaxer, and that card has hair. That was my main thing when I was thinking of it.
Yeah, when I was and I'm looking at it too, I'm thinking more of like Umbran Thirster and Umbran Reaper. They are very kind of elemental djinn looking. They look a lot more like Radiant. The Umbran Coaxer is kind of hybridized, so it could be. I guess we'll see when the card comes out. Maybe there is a transition phase. We did find out that Yetis become Jotun. Maybe we'll find out that elves and stuff can become Radiant because of this card or a card that comes out with it. It'll be good to see. They're doing a great job with the lore, as we talked about a few minutes ago.
I like this prediction, though it's a little too much like Beast Collar, so it's probably would have to be a little bit different, but 3-cost 1/1 with Infiltrate, summon an Umbran Reaper.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. I would love it. It would stick with that kind of elf theme that the Beast Collar has. So
I mean, this card that we're looking at is clearly a Yeti, and it's going to be great with Wump, because when you play it, you're going to get an Umbran Reaper, so I'm very excited for our new Yeti overlords here.
All right,
They've formed an alliance with the Radiant.
That would be awesome. The Wisps, I want them to make more Wisp cards. They're cute, they're fun, and some of them have some crazy power. I don't remember what the Praxis Wisp is that has all the awesome keywords that you play with Charge Rod, but that little bastard, that little guy is awesome. And then you get the other Wisp. Yeah, the Ember. And the other Wisp that gives you a bunch of card draw when you play a big dude. Like, all the Wisps, they look so unimposing, but they're so amazing.
They remind me of, sentient candles. Like from, a not Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast or something. Like, isn't that guy isn't that from that cartoon? Little candle guy, candlestick guy?
Yeah, little candlestick guy. I don't know what his name is.
Name,
we probably can't say it. Yeah, we probably can't say his name on the podcast anyway. There's probably an army of lawyers just scouring the internet for people saying things like that.
Mickey Mouse has eyes and ears everywhere.
That's right. Ain't that the truth? Well, it has been, it's funny, Platy and I were talking in Discord while I was driving home from the Carolinas, that he was like, man, we're not going to be able to fill up our time slot. Well, brother, it has been an hour and 25 minutes since we started. I think we did a great job of filling our time slot. We have a little bit of time for some Q&A. So, we've answered some of the questions. We've kind of rolled them into what people have been talking about. Somebody asked who Vara's mother is. That is Island. It is in the lore very clearly a few times, even in chapter 18. So Caiaphas is Vara's dad. Caiaphas is Caleb's dad. Island is Vara's mom. We don't know who Caleb's mom is yet. It is one of the quests. Vengevine has said one card that needs to be buffed or nerfed ASAP. There's plenty of cards that need to be buffed. Man, that's a hard question to answer because Direwolf has been very clear that they have built some cards to be limited play only, some cards to be draft play only, and other cards that are very much designed for constructed. So a card that we feel may need to be buffed, if you change it too much, it's too strong for limited and still maybe not good enough for constructed, so it doesn't have a place. So that one's hard. Cards that need to be nerfed. Man. I don't know.
I want tribal mechanics to be buffed overall. I want there to be better payoffs for committing to a tribal strategy. Give me a reason to play. Give me a reason to play Yeti Spy or Yeti Farplay Scout, whatever, in a deck with Wump and other stuff over playing Oni Ronin or Pyro Knight. Give me a reason to commit to a tribe. I want more tribal synergies. I want tribal synergies to be buffed. Also, yeah, Tavrod does need to be buffed. He needs to have Reckless.
That's absolutely right. Tavrod
Needs to be a 6/8 with
underpowered.
when he attacks with Unseen Commando. It's very important.
Here we go. I can give you some cards that need to be buffed because they do not see play in limited. It's literally impossible for them to show up in limited. I think Yeti Pult should be it. I think Yeti Pult should have more hit points. I think it should probably be a 5 cost, like 5 cost 4/3 with its same exact effect. I think Watchwing Conscript should be buffed. I think it should probably be a 5 cost as well, 5/5/3 for 2 justice.
I want Yeti Pult to be able to deal all 3 damage wherever it wants.
Yeah, just target.
Yeah, up to 3 damage to any number of permanents or whatever, 3 damage to one thing, 2 damage to one thing, and 1 damage to another, 1 damage to 3 things. I want to be able to use all 3 damage no matter how many permanents are on the board.
What's the Skycrag card that does that? It does 2 damage like that. Used to see a lot of play, doesn't see constructed play anymore. Rock Slide, thank you. Yeah, I would be very fine with that. So I think there are a plethora of cards from the campaigns, but my number 1 card from the campaigns that needs to be buffed, that I just want them to figure out something to do with in general is Zenin. I don't think Zenin is in the place it should be. I think it could be a lot stronger. We talked about Alarmadillo's Zenin deck, but I think it's short-lived. It's just going to get pushed out of the meta because people are going to go back to playing decks that just beat Zenin. But Cruciation is a 4-drop spell that says kill a unit with a single faction and gain its hit points. What a garbage card. There's just better cards now that do the exact same thing. You don't gain the hit points, but whoop-de-doo. You have In Cold Blood, which is a 4-cost kill a card. No restrictions. You got Death Strike, which is 4-cost kill a card. Now, I get it. This has time attached to it. You don't want to give Time Shadow the same thing that just straight Shadow has. But, man, for 4, kill a unit with a single faction? There's not a lot of very heavy cards with single factions that you don't already have the ability to deal with in those colors. So maybe 2-cost kill a card with single faction. Or buff it where you get double its hit points. Or buff it that you get a weapon that has its hit points as attack and armor. Something. Give me something more. Because 4-cost, that card will literally never see play in its current form unless there's a way to keep Katra alive long enough to make that useful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Make Wumpa 2-drop.
Well, you were saying on stream that you don't necessarily want them to buff or nerf any of the Yeti stuff, but we need one more Yeti hero. Maybe that's what the promo this month will be, a Yeti Elder.
Yeah, Wump's brother, Mump.
All right, so the last question of the night as we're closing is something that's been floating around. We talked about it on Platypus's stream. Damn it. We're not even supposed to cuss on the stream, and I'm going to say that again. Damn it. Do you think Eternal is dying? I do not. I think Eternal is in a good place. I think the developers and the team at Direwolf Digital could do some stuff better. I don't think they're advertising appropriately, but I do not think Eternal is dying. We're seeing the highest rate of pack purchases. We're seeing the highest rate of new users joining. If you look at the stats on the Apple Store, there are not problems with Eternal. It could be doing better. The pool is getting larger for mobile players, and the Eternal card game is not growing as quickly as some of the other Eternal, or as quickly as some of the other mobile games out there. But again, it's not designed to strictly be a mobile game. It is on Steam. It's on your computer. So, do I think it's dying? No. I think that it is fine. That the team at Direwolf just needs to do better about advertising. I think the only form they're using for true advertising is Facebook ads right now, and I don't think that's a good way to do it.
The game is absolutely not dying. I don't think it's dying. I mean, yeah, I mean, if they're going to continually put out content, I think that'll go a long way. I think a lot of people are wanting to see Direwolf Digital create a tournament series for the game, and some people were expecting that to be a thing, and it hasn't happened yet, and it's been 18 plus months since it came into open beta or whatever they're calling it these days. I would I don't think it's dying. I think if they just put out a little bit more communication with the community, so we have a little bit better expectations for timeline for things. I want them to put out more than 2 sets a year. I want them to put out more than one adventure or mini expansion or whatever between sets. Especially if it's going to stay at 2 sets a year. I'd like to see 2 or 3 adventures. But
yeah, give us some smaller stuff sprinkled in. I do agree with that. I think 2 sets a year is good for the kind of game that it is.
At least 3.
And
at least 3.
I think 2 sets is good, but I think 2 to 3 campaigns intersprinkled with the sets is much better. I don't think 1 campaign to split it is good. Give me 2 campaigns, or give me 2 or 3 small events and stuff like that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
They have made small steps towards showing that they're continuing to support the game, with this league stuff. That's new content that is coming out every month, and with that, you get at least 1 new promo every month. I would like these promo cards to be a little more competitive overall. I mean, we definitely have gotten some good ones, but I'd like to see them more competitive overall. But I think that's just a good step in the right direction that shows that they're dedicated to the game and interested in the game, and continuing to support it. And I think as a community, we see them continuing to support the game and all that jazz. That we'll stick around and hopefully keep telling our friends about it and keep being like, "Come on, you play that game? Play this game! I'm telling you, this game's great. Just finally try it. Maybe then our friends will finally try it." Yeah, I have a couple friends that I keep telling to try it. They still haven't.
Yeah, the game is in a game's early stages. The grassroots, get your player base to advertise is a great way to do it. The game now is getting to a point. We have a third-party tournament series that is very popular. It gets substantial amount of viewers on Twitch. The VODs go back and people watch the VODs. The website, Eternal Warcry, is fantastic. It's well built. We have the Eternal podcast right here on Platypus Island that is doing very well. We get live watchers. We get people that go and watch on YouTube. They're listening when it gets posted to the stream website or to the podcast websites. The website itself, Team Rankstar, does really well. People go and read the articles. We have Meta Mondays. We have Jank Fridays. We got the Mind Linking series, Eternal Vanguard. I mean, there's so much. The subreddit's very active. So the game is not dying. One of our viewers that's watching live said something that I'll echo, because everybody has said it. We just want Direwolf to advertise the game. It's all they need to do, and do it in a format that's going to get used. So buy some ad space on Reddit, buy some ad space on Twitter, promote some tweets, something like that. Shoot, if you can get a commercial, I mean, I get it. TV space is very expensive, hot commodity. I would buy into a Kickstarter to get them a TV commercial on USA Network or something like that. I don't know, but get the name out there, get people interested, because the grassroots stuff is only going to go so far. If you want your game to grow, you want your player base to grow, and you want to have the ability to do sponsored stuff, you gotta spend money to make money. It's what my daddy always said.
Heard that phrase a lot. Yeah, spend money to lose money. It's fantastic.
That's right.
Yeah, excellent. So lastly, before we wrap up here, do you have any predictions for Backlash, WWE Backlash pay-per-view live streaming right now? I'm gonna start it after we're done here and start it from the beginning.
Yeah, of course. But... So, I can't comment on the matches that have happened because I do have it going on in the background. They have been great to watch, so much so that I haven't been able to pay attention, so I have to go back and watch them. But Big Cass is fighting Daniel Bryan right now, and it's about what I expected it to be. Um, Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns.
That's
Uh,
the one we all
I,
want to talk about, I guess. Yeah.
yep, I want Samoa Joe to ragdoll Roman Reigns all over the place. My prediction is that Roman comes out, wins, is able to put Samoa Joe in his place or whatever, and then the collective WWE universe is just gonna, here we go again, and they're gonna try and push Roman to get his fight ready with Brock Lesnar to take the Universal Championship. I want to be wrong, but my prediction is that Roman wins and Samoa Joe kind of becomes the advocate. Roman has earned his place. He beat me. He is gonna do great things. Blah
He is
blah
the big
blah.
dog.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, Samoa Joe can't win, right? They shipped him off to the other brand, so.
Well, he can't. He quote unquote can't win. They said Brock Lesnar couldn't win because he was a part-time champ, and he has won twice now. One of those times is in a cell. So I'm just saying, anything's possible in this day and age.
Yeah, fair enough.
The other big match that I'm excited to see, I don't think it was on yet, so I can say things. But Charlotte versus Carmella. Luckily, my son is in bed because he is a huge crush on Carmella, and I want Charlotte to win, so we would be at odds. But
Fair.
he'll get to watch later. But yeah, I think Carmella probably retains. I think she pulls some underhanded move. She gets the bet. She betters the queen, and maybe Asuka comes out to defend the queen, the Empress and the Queen on the same team again.
In the post-match beatdown.
Yeah, but I think the moonwalking, trash talking queen. Well, she calls herself the queen, right, or whatever. The moonwalking, trash talking, whatever she calls herself, dominates the queen.
Carmella's ridiculous. I have not personally seen a ton of her as a singles competitor, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And plus, I mean, Charlotte Flair is like one of the best there is, so. Anyways.
Well, she learned from the best, so,
I digress.
Yeah, digressing indeed. You know, Platty and I both like wrestling a lot. A lot of the other streamers, Notorious GHP is a big wrestling fan. A lot of the people who watch the podcast live, who watch the stream every day, are wrestling fans. So you have to bear with us every once in a while. We'll wait till the end so you can shut it off. But every once in a while, we're going to talk about wrestling. There's a pay-per-view tonight. Platypus and I will be talking about it afterwards in chat, I'm sure. So you could shut off your podcast at the end if we start talking about wrestling, but just know that's going to happen every once in a while.
Yeah, Notorious GHP, right when we were like about to start, like minutes away from starting, Backlash was about to actually start, and he's like, I'd probably tune in, but gotta watch Backlash. Don't worry, no spoilers for you. Like, all right, thanks, buddy. But anyways,
I'll take it.
There we are.
Let's wrap this thing up, man.
Episode 2, In the Bank. Yeah, you can, again, Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast streams live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, at twitch.tv/ThePlatypusKing. You can help support me personally, and /us, maybe, at patreon.com/ThePlatypusKing. And you can find me on Twitter at Platypus Island. You can find Mantid Man on Twitter at Mantid Man. And of course, always go to TeamRankstar.com for all your Eternal strategy and video content desires. Yeah. Any closing thoughts here?
Closing thoughts. ETS was great. Your deck was great. I've been playing it a bunch. Not sucking up at all.
I have changed the meta myself here this weekend. I've seen Levitate popping up in more and more decks. I'm play against this random deck, 2-color Primal X, Primal Haru deck, right? And the guy's got Levitates. I mean, I've seen that before but basically only from people like P. Chapin, whatever user that is on Eternal. I've seen him play Haru control with Levitates in it, so you didn't see it too often before. I've seen it a handful of times today, and people are finally realizing you need to play. Levitate's a good card. You can play it in a control deck. It's good.
That's right. Well, you know, the meta shift is real, in part thanks to the Platypus King.
The innovator, the Platypus King.
The innovator.
Yep.
Manta Man is the talent. Platypus King is the innovator. Look what you get out of the whole thing. I approve of the card buffs, the card changes in general. Two of them don't really have an effect. I think the other two will see continued effect moving forward. Obviously, I'm a lore nerd, so the lore was great. League, I think, is going to have some new. It's going to be a lot better this month. They'll probably have to tweak it some more. I expect in June the post will say, "Oh, we tweaked League a little bit more. We did this, such and such." But I think they're on the right track with that. Um, yeah, lore great. Promo speculation was a blast. Talking about what could be coming. Um, be active on your in the Discord. Be active in Platypus King's Discord. Be active on the subreddit. The community needs every single one of you. And finally, Backlash. It should be fun to go back and watch. Overall, great podcast. I really enjoyed it again this week. I'm not interested in slowing down at all. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes. Well, all right. We'll see y'all next week. Take care. Don't die.